Shalom. This is Adasabat Saiwan, returning with another exhortation that was laid on my heart for the last few days to tell the brethren to get ready. Get ready, Yasharaal. Our day of redemption draws near. Now, before I get started, I want to apologize if you're hearing any feedback in the background. I have my fan on and I have it directed to the computer, but a little bit of it might come my way. And I'm very appreciative of it because not only is it keeping the computer cool, but it will keep me cool as well because it's very, very, very hot here today. But I'm determined to do this exhortation. All right. So before I go into the actual exhortation, I just want to say briefly that we're living in some very uncertain times and we're seeing everything. We're seeing things escalating, whether it is to do with the weather or wars, rumors of wars, what have you. We're seeing an increase in frequency and intensity. All right. And this is to be expected because these are the days of sorrow. These are the birth pangs Hamashiach spoke about, that he warned the disciples, and the disciples wrote them down to warn us today because we are the generation that will be regathered. We are the fourth generation. Okay? So we will see these things happening, escalating, but we're not to become fearful. We are to be rejoicing. However, if you are feeling fearful, it means that there's something amiss. And you need to pay attention to what is going on internally, because that is a clear signal that all is not well. And when I say all is not well, I'm talking about your relationship with Allah Hayam Yahweh. And if all is not well with him, then there is a danger that you can be destroyed, because he's only regathering those who are faithful to him. Now, the opposite of being faithful or being full of faith is being fearful. And you only become fearful when you doubt the power of Allah Hayam Yahweh to protect us, and you doubt the word that he has spoken to us, the promises that he has made. And his promise is to regather the righteous remnant of both the southern kingdom first and then the northern kingdom. Now, if we doubt those promises, then you will be fearful. And that's when you now need to investigate, why are you feeling fearful? These things have to happen. We were warned a long time ago that they were going to happen. And now we're living in the days where we're seeing the climax of calamities all around us. And we ought to be rejoicing. Why? Because at the ending of these days of sorrows will be our regathering. Of course, there will be the 3 days of darkness. But after that, Hamashiach is going to send his angels. He himself is going to come through the eastern portal along with the chariots and the angels to regather the southern kingdom from the four corners of the earth. And that's why he said to us, when you see these things begin to happen, he said, look up, He said, in fact, before he said, look, yes, he said, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. He said, look up. He didn't say to do anything. He didn't say run for the hills. He said, look up. Why? Because as these things begin to climax, it just simply means that he is getting ready to regather his people, the ones that are watching and praying and are prepared. So part of getting ready is getting yourselves prepared. And that's why I'm saying, if you are beginning to feel fearful because of all the different things that are being spoken about in, on the media, in the media, and where have you, then it means there is something amiss in your relationship with Allah Hayam Yahweh. We have to be faithful and we cannot be fearful. You have to dig deep and confront what it is that is causing you to feel fearful. And when you are faithful to Him and you hear these things happening, you know what's going to happen? You're going to start rejoicing because you know it's soon time to get out of here. All right? Soon time to get out of here. No, I am not a fearmonger. I'm here to encourage. All right? I am here to encourage you. So when I speak of things that are happening, I also balance it with the word of Allah Hayam, with His promises. So that when you look at the promises and then you look at the things that are going on in this world, you can just like, whatever. Because they have to happen. If they don't happen, we can't get out of here. So we ought to be praying, Father, let it happen. Because I want to come home. All right? So let's get started. This is not going to be a long exhortation. It's going to be quite short. Now, this is a word of encouragement to the brethren as we are witnessing a great upheaval in the world today. There are threats of wars all around us, and even more sinister actions being taken to show that these threats of wars are imminent. So we know that the bear country, Mr. Putin, he has his ships in the Caribbean Sea, and he has made threats against the US and certain European countries, and he has brought his ships in the Caribbean waters for drills. Now, why would he leave his region, which is a long way away from the Caribbean, to come into those waters? Wonder why. Okay, and then he's barking threats. Now, are we to become fearful because we think that there's going to be a nuclear war or a third world war? Or let me tell you right now, there's no such thing as nuclear weapons. So there will be no such thing as nuclear war. I can tell you that without a shadow of doubt. If they had nuclear weapons, they would have used them a long, long, long time ago. They don't have any. They're all empty threats. However, they may have their own little missiles and what have you. I'm not debunking that, but I'm telling you there's no such thing as nuclear war. And I know there are people that go to the Bible and say, oh yes, people melting where they stand, that's nuclear weapons. No such thing. Why would Hamashiach need nuclear weapons to destroy our enemies, his enemies? He just opened his mouth and they're destroyed. Is that nuclear weapon? Come on, man. Read the scriptures. He has power. He doesn't need their evil weapons to destroy them. Okay? There's no such thing as nuclear weapons, and there will be no such thing as a nuclear war. And as for World War III, there will be no such thing either. He said there will be wars and rumors of wars. All right? There are going to be some major wars coming up. The next major war that will be coming up will be between the Beast Empire, number 7. That is a technology-based empire that will be led by the anti-Messiah and the New World Order, which is the empire for the anti-Messiah. And they're going to war against the saints, the Northern Kingdom. All right? The next war after that will be the war of Armageddon, when Hamashiach comes to rule as king before the 1,000-year reign. That's going to be the next major war. Worse than a world war. And then the last war to be ever fought on this earth will be the war of Gog and Magog. There will be skirmishes in between one nation against another. But when it comes to world wars or wars of that proportion, not going to happen. Those last 3 wars that I'm telling you about, those are going to happen. Okay? So don't fret yourselves into thinking, oh, well, there's going to be a third world war. Oh, you got the Christians out there bleating all over the place and spreading this fear mongering. If you understand the word of Allah Hayam Yahweh, all right, you would not think that there will be a nuclear war, or 2, a World War III. It's only when you are ignorant of the truth that you will believe those things, because you hear the propaganda machine talking about it. And so you follow suit. And that's when fear comes in. Fear comes in because of the ignorance. Because if you were in the truth, then you would know that it's all a lie. It's a rumor that has no substance, because there's no such thing as nuclear weapons. Someone debunked that a long time ago. They took down the video. I saw the video myself. How someone debunked the so-called nuclear testings that they had. Everything was going up in smoke except the camera. The camera was there. And they were showing all the different, the mushroom cloud. Of course, they show you a mushroom cloud. And then there are other things in the vicinity that is not being touched. Doesn't make any sense. So I knew for a very long time there was no such thing as a nuclear war. Oh yeah, well, Chernobyl this and Chernobyl that. How do you know that what happened in Chernobyl had to do with a nuclear, what do they call it, reactor or whatever? I think it's something exploded. They displaced the people. How do you even know? Where are the people that were living there? Anyways, we can get into that discussion about these so-called nuclear reactors, like the one in Japan that got, I think because of the earthquake, started leaking radiation, radioactive material in the oceans and all these different things. Listen, these people are experts on fear-mongering because their father is the father of lies. He's also the master of deception. And because they have the media, whether social media or the mainstream media, in their back pockets, they can tell you anything that you want to hear, that they want you to hear. Now, I'm working on the third part of the technology, the Nephilim technology study. And one thing that the Spirit brought back to me was something called crisis actors. Do you know there's such a thing as crisis actors that are hired to perform, to convince people that something had happened when it didn't happen? False flag events, all kinds of stuff they have used as their agenda to persuade the foolish people that things are happening when nothing happened. We got to be a little bit more smarter. We got to be smarter than that. Smarter than that. And you know how you can become smarter than that? Getting into the word of Allah Hayam and plugging into his truth. Once you know the truth, you're set free from the lies and the deception. He can't come and lie to you. When you sit and you watch something happening, you will know off the, without even thinking about it, it's a lie. Because Ruach HaKadash will tell you it's a lie. Don't believe it. And he will show you different little indicators, things that they've said or they will say, and he will show you things, whether they're giving a signal with their hands or what have you, you know, propaganda. He'll show you. All right. So we're talking about wars and rumors of wars, and that's the latest thing that's been happening today, June 14th, 2024. Then there are warnings about great earthquakes about to take place in the Cascadia subduction zone that will affect Vancouver and Victoria, British Columbia. Those two places are in British Columbia, Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon. So all along that coastline, this Cascadia subduction zone is threatened. All right. They said it can create an earthquake of the magnitude of 9.0 to 9.2. All right. That's a tremendous earthquake. Now, when I was living in Canada, when I was living in Vancouver, I keep hearing about an impending earthquake that is supposed to come because of, the plates and what have you. All right. And they said that it's going to be such a tremendous earthquake that it's going to cause a place called Richmond to sink. And the reason why Richmond will sink, that's a part of Vancouver, is what do you call them now? Municipality, another city in Vancouver, yes. And they said it's going to sink because it's man-made. Richmond is man-made. They built it up. All right? So because they built it up, it's going to come down. And that's the area where the earthquake will occur. Now, they said this in the last couple of days because somehow there are things happening. They're receiving readings to let them know, because they monitor the tectonic plates all over, right? Especially the major ones, to see if there's any signal, any sign that there's trouble brewing. And so now they're saying that yes, this Cascadia subduction zone is showing signs that something is about to happen. Don't know when it will happen. All right. Then there are threats of eruptions of volcanoes. I'm hearing too of Yellowstone, that caldera That massive super volcano that will take out quite a few, uh, well, it will take out quite a few. We don't have provinces in states. Yes, states. There are provinces in Canada and states in America. Yes. And it can be very catastrophic. I think at one point in time they had to close down the park because it was sending up some I don't know, ashes and whatnot. But there are things happening to this super volcano. And not only this one, but you hear about the volcanoes in Iceland. So the volcanoes that were once sleeping in various countries, even in Europe and what have you, they're now waking up. They're waking up. Then we're hearing about crazy floods in various countries. Yep. And hailstones in another. I remember when I first saw hailstones, they were tiny little pebbles. So tiny. They'll sting you when they hit you. But now they're growing in size. And they're no longer the size of little pebbles. They're the size now of either a golf ball, and now they're showing you size like a baseball, and they're increasing. All right. So and they're becoming very destructive too. You don't want to be out in a hailstorm that are pelting down ice balls the size of the baseball. You don't want to be out in that. It will kill you. But it's happening. I just saw that Spain is flooding all different places. Flooding, flooding, flooding. And what isn't flooding? Intense heat. I heard about India experiencing intense heat. Even the monkeys are collapsing and dying from the heat. And even here, it's gotten hotter this month than it has been since I've been here. Usually, this kind of heat we experience in July and August, but not in June. So there is something happening. But let me just say this, don't forget about the studies that I've been doing, the Nephilim technology. All right? There is something called the HAARP, which they're using to bring about these weather changes, these extreme weather changes. Now listen, Allah Hayam Yahweh, He also can cause these things to happen, or He will permit them to use their technology to cause these kinds of extreme weather events to take place. Either way, either of the situations, He's in control. All right? And it's only because we are nearing the ending of time that Allah Hayam, Yahweh, is allowing them with boundaries, of course. They can go so far and no further. Why? Because the southern kingdom is still here. Now, all these different things that you see, the Cascadian subduction zone, the Yellowstone caldera, all these things could actually climax at the time of the great earthquake that is coming, seal number 6, which will cause destruction of certain islands, mountains, and what have you, and at the same time bring all the land masses together as one again, as it was in the beginning. That's how I see it happening. I don't see these things happening unless there's a purpose, and that purpose would be to bring the one landmass together again, so that they're no longer islands separate from the land, the mainland, whatever that mainland is, and they're no longer continents. Everything now becomes one. All right. That's why we're not to fear, because if we understand the prophecies, then there's no need to fear. No need to fear. But we, as the children of Allah Hayam, are not to fear when we hear of these things taking place, but we are to look up and lift up our heads, for our redemption draws near. And why we will do this is because we are watching and praying at the same time, with great expectation of being regathered. So the more you hear, the more horrible news you are hearing, whether it's about the weather or rumors of wars or conflicts or what have you, we ought to be rejoicing because we know it is soon time for us to get out of here. We don't want to stay here. Why would you want to stay here on this earth with the devils and their minions and their agents and their evil agendas and their evil technology? Why would you want to continue living here? All right? But there are going to be a lot of people that will not want to believe these things because they love this life. They love this life so much that they will not even want to believe that things are escalating. They will say, well, these things have been happening for generations. It's only because they have technology that they can measure things now. No, it's not that. Has it been this hot 10 years ago? We had thermometers then. Have we had superstorms and super volcanoes threatening to erupt? You can't say that it's because we have the technology to measure the disasters that now we can say, well, yeah, things are getting bad, but not really, because they've always been happening. Yes, they have always been happening, but not to this intensity and definitely not this frequent. Everything now is happening all at the same time. While one place is burning, the other place is flooding, all at the same time. And then there are earthquakes happening too at the same time, and hailstorms at the same time, volcanic eruption, all happening at the same time, along with the wars and the rumors of wars, all happening at the same time. Never before in history has anything like this ever happened. None of these things ever happened together at the same time. All right, so let's get started with the scripture. We're looking at Matthew chapter 22, starting from verse 1 to verse 14. And the reason why I haven't written it out because it's too long. Like I said, I just want to do like a quick exhortation because it's been on my heart for a few days to encourage the brethren. Do not become fearful of whatever is going on. All right? You hear the threats of nuclear war, ignore them. Keep looking up. Keep in the word of Allah Khayyam. Keep praying. Keep watching for Him. Don't watch for these devils and what they're planning or what they think they're planning. Do not be distracted. All right? Okay, let's start with verse 1. And Yahushua answered and spoke unto them again by parables and said, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king which made a marriage for his son. So Hamashiach always spoke in parables, especially when he is speaking a very important instruction. It's not meant for all ears to hear and understand. Only those that had ears to hear will understand. Then and even now. And that's why a lot of people dismiss Hamashiach because they don't understand his teachings. They don't understand his parables. And they don't understand is because they don't have Ruach HaAmath, the spirit of truth. Only he can reveal the truth to us. And if you don't understand the truth, it's because you don't have Ruach HaAmath. So he spoke in parables, which is prophecy, hidden mysteries. And he's comparing the kingdom of heaven to a certain king who we know, of course, is Yahweh. And he made a marriage for his son. Now that's covenant. He's speaking of covenant. And you know today we're called into covenant, but this is not the ultimate of the covenant as yet. We're only betrothed. When we accept the conditions of the covenant of Allah Hayam Yahweh, we are now betrothed to his son, waiting for the marriage between him and us, which will come at the end of the age when all evil is destroyed and the old becomes new. Okay, we did that in the study of Revelation. I did a very in detailed study about that. Verse 3, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. So he's calling his servants. He's calling the southern kingdom. Hey, get ready. You're coming home. But many of them, they're going to say, we're not ready. We don't want to come yet. We still have this to do and that to do. And we kind of like it here. Right? Can you just change the people and allow us to continue living here? No, he's not going to do that. You see, our brethren in Goshen did the same thing too. They didn't want to leave. There were some that didn't want to leave. And you know what Yahweh did? He destroyed them in the 3 days of darkness, the ones that were not planning on leaving, because they didn't believe that Allah Hayam Yahweh can furnish a table for them in the wilderness, meaning feed them and take care of them. They didn't believe. So he destroyed them in the 3 days of darkness. And the same thing is coming in this second 3 days of darkness that he's sending to sift the southern kingdom. Because they don't want to come. They don't want to attend to his wedding. Why? Because they have to give up their wicked ways. They have to walk in his commandments, which they don't want to. It's upsetting their apple cart. Right? They have dreams. They have an empire that they want to build on this earth. They want to be great. They want to make lots of money. What have you? Because Allah Hayam will cause you to give up all your dreams. All the things that you own, all the things that you have, he's going to tell you, leave it behind and come follow me. Can you give up? Can you give up that wife that you marry that is not of the brethren? Can you give up that husband that is not of the brethren? Can you give up that job that is causing you to work 6 days a week, 7 days a week? Can you give up that house and the cars and what have you? And live simply? Can you give up all for him? That's the question. And you know what? It was placed before us in 2020 when that hoax came down the line. It caused a lot of separations between family and friends and work people, workmates. Lots of separations. People were ostracized because they believed in the truth and not in the lies. And they stood firm on the word of Allah Hayam Yahweh. Because they believed. And they have faith. We have faith. And yes, we had to give up all for him. What's the point of you having the whole world and you lose your soul? What's the point? You gain the whole world, but you lose your soul. I rather keep my soul and lose everything, because I know once I'm regathered, he's going to restore everything that I have lost, just like he did with Job. Verse 4. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, tell them which are bidden, behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. Now, when he talks about the oxen and the fatlings, and that, because part of the covenant has to do with sacrifices. And this is what is going to happen when Hamashiach comes and he brings the two kingdoms together, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, because the southern kingdom is returning to the earth with him. This is in Revelation chapter 19. And before we ride out with him to see the Armageddon war, he is going to make the two kingdoms one and bring us into covenant with him, betroth us to him officially as one kingdom. We will be betrothed to him as two kingdoms, the southern kingdom first and then the northern kingdom when they're regathered. But now, for the first time in history, since the division of the 12 tribes, we will become one in covenant with him. And when he does that, he is going to establish Mount Sinai. Mount of Olives will become Mount Sinai. And upon Mount Sinai, he will establish his tabernacle. And we will all flow in there with him. He will make the sacrifices to bind us together as one in his hand. That is the marriage supper. That Al-Hayam Yahweh is preparing for his son. But he's preparing his people first. He has to prepare our hearts. But the problem is, a lot of our people, they don't want their hearts to be prepared. They don't want to come to his supper. Verse 5, but they made light of it and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. You see what they love? The things of this earth. This is speaking of our brethren. Forget about the world. We're talking about the brethren here now. Farm meaning their properties. And merchandise will be their things, their mammon, their houses and cars, and what have you, businesses. They love it so much they don't want to give it up for him, because they work hard, studied hard, worked harder to get these things. And you want me to give this up? You want me to sell all that I have and give the money to the poor? Wasn't that the rich young man that went to Hamashiach and said, all the things that you told me to do, I've been doing since I've been young. All the commandments I have followed. And then Hamashiach said, if you want to be perfect, meaning you want to be complete, that's what perfect means. Complete with him. You sell all that you have and give the money to the poor. And the rich man, he hung his head and walked away, because the one thing that you cannot separate from him is his money, is his properties, the things that he owned, because he worked hard for them. That's the one thing he will not part with, his merchandise, his money. And that's how it is with a lot of our brethren. And that's why I'm doing these messages, to let you know, because the day that the Heavenly Father is getting ready to deliver his people, you can't say you didn't know. Can't say he didn't know. Verse 6, and the remnant took his servants and entreated them spitefully and slew them. And when he talked about his servants, he talking about the prophets, the ones he sent with messages to warn the brethren. And you know what they did with them? You know what our wicked brethren did with the servants? Kill them, because they didn't want to hear. And we're still killing one another today, but with words, cursing one another. And if they could physically kill one another, they would too. Verse 7. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and he sent forth his armies and destroyed those murderers and burned up their city. Now this is also showing you what happened to our forefathers back in the day when we were living in our land. When our people became rebellious against Allah Hayam and broke his commandments, broke his covenant, and brought all manner of abominations in his tabernacle. What did he do? He sold us out to the Babylonians, to the Medes and Persians, to the Greeks, and then finally the Romans, and also the Syrians. We can't forget them. But it was the Romans that destroyed the last temple. Our temples were burnt with fire. And then we were dislodged from our land. Our forefathers were dislodged from our land. And here we are today, still living in exile, still living in the lands of our captivity and loving it. Then said he, verse 8, to his servants, the wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. So the ones, especially the ones that should know better, the leaders, the ones that the word was given to proclaim, the children, to proclaim to the ones that didn't necessarily know, because Allah Hayam Yahweh had a structure where he had the priest and the leadership in the land that would pass the messages down to the people. The word of Allah Hayam came to the people through the prophets, through the priests, through the leaders. But if the leadership is wicked and the priesthood is wicked and evil, what do you expect from the people? All right? He said his wedding was ready. His wedding has been ready for a while now, because he always wanted to be in covenant with his people. Even with our forefathers, when they left Goshen, he brought them into the wilderness to bring them into covenant with him. But there are conditions for keeping covenant with him. But this is only a betrothal until the real marriage takes place at the end of the age. But many people don't want to obey the commandments. They don't want to walk in his statutes and his judgments. They want to live like harlots. They want to worship other gods. They want to worship Mammon. Verse 10. So those servants went out into the highways. Sorry, I forgot verse 9. Go you therefore into the highways, and as many as you shall find, bid to the marriage. So forget about the leaders. Forget about the ones that were instructed with the laws, the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments. No, I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out there. For the lowliest person who wants to come in to covenant with me, you can. You see, so he's removed the leadership. And now he's allowing, because before it had to be through the leadership that the people of the land came into covenant. Because you had the priesthood that had to carry out the sacrifices. All right? And you also had the kings and all the different leaders, the princes, what have you, the chiefs of the tribes. They all worked hand in hand together to help bring the people into covenant with Al-Hayam Yahweh. They couldn't just walk up to the tabernacle and carry out the sacrifices themselves. There was an order for these sacrifices to be carried out. And a particular people, only the Levites, Lewi, can carry out the sacrifices. So you know what he has done now today? He has completely removed them and say, you don't need them to come into covenant with me. Because he sent his only begotten son to become the high priest forever after the order of Malachi Sadak. He is also the veil through whom we can enter into the presence of Al-Hayam Yahweh. He became our eternal sacrifice. So we don't need a priesthood to make any sacrifices for us. It's already been done. All right. So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all, as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. So the servants that he's speaking here are speaking of the angels. The angels. All right? They're the ones that Allah Hayam is going to use to bring his people, the remnant, in the chariots, into covenant with him. Because where are we going? We're going to third heaven. That's where he is. That's where the original copy of the tabernacle is. That's where the garden of Odan is. And in order for us to enter into the garden of Odan, to dwell with him there, we have to enter into covenant with him. And we must be in covenant before we're regathered. Once we're regathered, then the sin nature is removed and we eat of the tree of life. And now we are completely renewed. Okay? We no longer have sin or any attachments to sin. All right? So he said he sent his servants to gather as many as they found, both bad and good. Nothing evil can come into the kingdom of Allah Hayam. If you're wicked and evil, you can't enter into the kingdom of Allah Hayam. So he's not talking about wicked people. This word, first of all, the word highway, it speaks of course of conduct. So when those servants are searching for people, they are searching for people that have a particular way of thinking, feeling, and decision making. And all of it points to Al-Hayam Yahweh because they walk in obedience to him. They walk in his commandments, his statutes, his judgments, and they walk in his laws. It's a course of conduct. So the highway here is not talking about a street or a highway that you can drive your car. No, it's talking about he's looking for people of a certain mindset because they're conducting themselves in a particular manner. All right? And that goes hand in hand with the word bad. The word bad there does not mean evil. It can mean evil, but in this instance, it does not mean evil because nothing evil will enter into the kingdom of Allah Hayam. Cannot. So the word bad here means full of labors and annoyances, hardships, pressed, harassed by labors. In a physical sense, diseased or blind. In an ethical sense, evil, wicked, and bad. But we're not dealing with the ethical sense, we're dealing with the physical sense. Because nothing evil, wicked, or bad in that example, or by those examples, can enter into the kingdom of Allah Hayam. He's not going to bring wicked people and make them good. You got to make your decision here on the earth to live for Allah Hayam Yahweh. But the word bad here is speaking of people that have gone through some terrible hardships in life. They've been pressed down on every side. They're the lowliest of the lowliest. All right? They're full of hardships. The ones that have been beaten down, and yet they have faith to believe in Allah Hayam Yahweh. They don't amount to much. They don't have much to show for anything. But their hearts are sound for Him. And they live for Him. They breathe for Him. And no matter what people say about them and how they're treated, they still live for Him. These are the bad ones. The ones that, quote unquote, are bad. They're not evil. They're just people that have tough lives. They've had to endure much in this world. But thankfully, Hamashiach came to remove the leadership and all the different things that we had to go through as people. If we weren't part of the leadership, we're the part of the congregation, we had to go through the leadership. So no, we don't need to anymore. All right? He's looking for people of a certain mindset. And that mindset is a true worshiper. Didn't Hamashiach say that to the Samaritan woman? He said the Father seeks those who worship Him in spirit and in truth. That's what He told the woman from Samaria. The Father seeks such that worship Him in spirit and in truth. That's the mindset. That's the highway. Verse 11. And when the king came in to see the guest, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said unto him, Friend, how came you in here not having a wedding garment? And the man was speechless. He was speechless. Do you know why? Do you know what makes the wedding garment? Do you know that when we walk in the covenant right now, right here as I'm speaking, we make a covenant with Allah Hayam to obey His commandments, all His laws, His statutes, and His judgments. We walk in them. And then the time comes and He regathers us, the lowliest of the lowliest. Don't have much in this life to show for anything. In fact, you don't have anything. You don't have 2 coins to rub together. But you still love Him. You still believe in Him. You still trust in Him. And then finally, we're regathered. And He removes that sin nature. And we eat of the tree of life. And the light, the fullness of Allah Hayam emerges out from within us and emits from within us outwardly to be a garment of light. This is the garment, the wedding garment that He's talking about. The light that shines from within once the process of cleansing is completed, once the process of him giving us our rewards are completed. Hallelujah. That's the wedding garment. So this man, he snuck in. But this is not possible to happen, but he's using this just to teach us a lesson here. Only those with the wedding garment will be allowed to in for the wedding. This is the lesson here. This is like Hamashiach said, it's a parable. So we have to glean from it as a parable because it's a message that he's sending to us. Not to say literally that a man, any person can be accidentally walk into the wedding. No. This is just a message to let us know that once we are regathered, we will be given wedding garments. And that wedding garment is going to be our light garment. And only those people that have the capabilities while living on this earth, this world of darkness, because we already have a little light in us. You know that song, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Yeah. Right now we have a little light, but that little light is going to be enough to carry us through the 3 days of darkness, because Allah Hayam Yahweh is going to increase that light within us. And then once we are regathered and we go through the process of cleansing ourselves in the water of life, and then we eat from the tree of life to be fully restored. In fact, double proportion from what Adam and Hawa had, because we have the portion that they had, the light portion that they had, and we also have the light portion that Lucifer lost. It was given to Abraham and to his seed forever. So now we have a double portion of light. So we have been upgraded from Adam and Hawa. That's the wedding garment. So the man was speechless, can't say a word, living like a harlot, going after mammon. And then you just want to slip in? Ain't going to happen. Not going to happen. People waiting for the wilderness, waiting for the Exodus, then to get themselves fixed there. You better fix yourself here and now. You better get yourself in order. Otherwise, you're going to be destroyed. You're not even going to be left behind. He's just going to destroy those that were not regathered of the southern kingdom. I warned you. I'm warning you. Now, verse 13 and 14. Then said the king to the servants, these are the angels, because they're the ones who regathered us. Bind him hand and foot, and take him away and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What do you think that means? Exactly what I just said. If you're not regathered and entering into the wedding and wearing your wedding garments, this is exactly what's going to happen to those that are not regathered. They're going to be cast out into the outer darkness where they're weeping and gnashing of teeth. That means they're getting ready to be cast into the lake of fire. There's no judgment after this. They've already been judged. They've been condemned for eternity. So they go to the hellish part of hell to wait for the lake of fire to be created. And once that has been created, then they will be cast directly into the lake of fire. No further judgments. They've already been judged. The 3 days of darkness will be our final judgment. Okay? Our final judgment. This here, verse 13, is speaking about the lake of fire. So if you're not worthy to enter in to the wedding garment. And you are invited, you know. This is the sad state of affairs. We all have been invited to the wedding that Allah Hayam, Yahweh, is setting up between us and his son. But we, the wicked ones, not we, now I'm not going to put myself in there, all right? But the wicked ones have already decided that they don't want anything to do with Hamashiach, one. And two, they don't want to leave their things behind. They want to hold on to their things. You can't hold on to Mammon and worship Allah Hayam too at the same time. You can't. Impossible. Yes, I know Abraham was a wealthy man, so was Yaakov and Dawad and all the various ones. However, Allah Hayam, Yahweh, blessed them with wealth. But when you go out there and you acquire wealth, right, you think it belongs to you and you don't want to give it up because you work hard for your money. And that's why you now have a big problem. Either you choose your mammon and keep worshiping it, or you have to give it up in order to worship Allah Hayam Yahweh. Hamashiach said you cannot serve two masters. And this is the reason why a lot of our brethren despise Hamashiach. And they call him a Roman plant because he really brings it down to the nitty-gritty. All right? He laid it down. He said, it's either this or that. Can't be both. And because he says these things, they despise him. They despise his words. So they said, you know what? Let's call him a Roman plant. And let's try to find our way into the kingdom by ourselves. Good luck with that. Because the way is so narrow. And if you don't have Ruach HaKodesh leading you, you're not going to find it. And the way that they're walking on, where they look around and they can see everybody and they're laughing and smiling and thinking, hey, yeah, we can have it all and still, call on Ahaya and what have you. Huh? And thinking that they're walking the straight and narrow path to the wilderness to enter into his kingdom. Oh, they don't even know that they're on the Broadway heading straight for destruction. Utter destruction. And you know, another sad thing about it is, he's not going to give them any more warnings. He's not going to stir up any convictions within them because they have already made their decisions and he's going to respect that. He's going to say, okay, that's what you want. I'm going to leave you to it. Because he already knew who belongs to him. That's why he said here in verse 14, for many are called, but few are chosen. Many are called, but few are chosen. He put the call out there for all of the brethren, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, with the hope that the bad and the indifferent would have a change of heart, repent and turn from their wicked ways, and seek after him. Put aside their mammon, put aside their wicked ways, put aside the things that are causing them to be destroyed. But no. That's why only a few are chosen. Only a few, a remnant, will be regathered, both of the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. And he is going to cause us to multiply again. So we're not going to remain few. He's gathering a few, but he's going to cause us to multiply abundantly. All right. Let's look at Matthew chapter 24, starting from verse, I have 42 to 42. That is verse 42 to 44. That's a typo. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your other one will come. You don't know when, how the hour, the timing that he will come. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be you also ready, for in such an hour as you think not the Son of Man comes. So the least time that you think he's coming, he's going to come. Now, I know we have discussed the day and hour has to do mostly with the end of times when he is coming to rule as king. And we have misunderstood certain of these prophecies to make it think that he's not going to let us know when he's coming. Yes, he will. He's going to give us he has already spoken about the indicators that are going to let us know when he is coming. But he's talking about the exact hour, down to the second. We don't know. But we know the timing is near because of all the things that are escalating. And when the time gets even closer, we're going to notice even more. And the more you watch and pray, the more he will let us know. He will let his people know. When it was time for Hanawah to be taken up, he did tell him. When it was time for Elijah, to be taken up in the chariots, he let them know. He told them. But he didn't give them a long time warning. He gave them warning within a short period of time. Okay, I'm coming tomorrow. I'm just using that as an example. All right, I'm just using that as an example. But he did let those two, and those two are examples for us that will be regathered in the chariots. He told them and he let them know. So he will do the same with us. He will let us know. All right, he will let us know. But the exact second, we would not know. We don't need to know. You know why we don't need to know? Because he's coming after the 3 days of darkness. And we will know when the 3 days of darkness are completed. He'll tell us, because it will be Ruach HaKadosh that will be leading us and guiding us in those 3 days of darkness and whatever things he wants us to do. Whatever prayers that we have to offer up, whatever it is that we need to do in those 3 days of darkness. Because it's going to be a time of worship. He will let us know. And so he will also let us know when the time is up. That's why we can't know the exact hour when he's coming to regather his people. We can't know it because of the 3 days of darkness that will precede him coming. So the sun, moon, and stars are going to be shut off. We're not going to know when he's coming again. This is Revelation chapter 19, because the sun, moon, and stars will cease to exist. So there'll be no time. And then for the third time, the heavens and earth are going to pass away. And only Allah Hayam Yahweh is going to know when that time is, when he is going to restore the heavens and the earth and New Yasharaal. That is in the knowledge of Allah Hayam Yahweh. Not even the sun knows when the heavens and earth are going to pass away. And when all will be made new again. All right? So he said, you don't know, but he said, you be ready. Once you are ready, this is the way how we need to look at it. Once we are ready, we will know. We will know because we will be in the light. But if you're trying to look at a particular time, hour, you're not going to know. How can you know? There's no sun, moon, and stars during the 3 days of darkness. But once you're in the light, because you're ready, you were ready for the darkness when it comes, you will know the time. All right? Matthew chapter 25, verse 10 to 13. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage. We looked at this in a previous study. All right? About the 10 virgins, 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. And those that were wise had oil in their lamps, and they were ready to go into the marriage. They had light. Hallelujah. Same thing that I was saying earlier. They had light. So they were able to go in to the marriage with the bridegroom. But those that didn't have oil in their lamps, they had no light. So they went to find places to buy oil. Again, this is a parable, a story to send a very important message, prophetic message. Because you can't literally go and buy oil if you really look at it from a logical or literal point of view. But he was just saying, you can't buy light. You can't buy this light. This light got to come from within because of obedience. Because of love. You love the Father, so you walk in his commandments. He bestows his light inside of you, and that light starts to shine. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Now that sounds like the ark. Noah's ark. Once that door is closed, it's not going to open up again. Meaning that once the veil is closed, once the curtains are closed, there's no going back. There's no repentance that you can offer up to the Father to cause him to open up that door, to open up the curtains. Well, let's use door, because door of the ark and door here was shut. Once Allah Hayam has closed the doors for the southern kingdom, they're closed forever. Whoever makes it in, they're in forever. Who does not make it in, they're destroyed. That's why I'm telling you, get ready. Get your spiritual house in order. The time is running very near now, very close. Verse 11. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Adawan, Adawan, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man comes. And I know a lot of people use that to say, well, we can't know exactly, so, then it's not our fault. But that's not the message here. I explained the message. If you are in darkness, you will not know the day or the hour. But if you are in the light, you will know the day and you know the hour. Because he will let you know by his Spirit. And because you're watching, you're ready. And because you're ready, you're regathered, you're in the light. So of course you know. But the opposite of that is you're not watching, so therefore you will not be ready. So therefore you will not know the day or the hour. Because the darkness is going to come upon you like a thief in the night. And then you'll be destroyed, because then the door is closed. The door to the ark will be closed. The door to the bridal chamber will be closed forever. All right? Let's look at Obadiah chapter 10, verse 23. This is the book of Hebrews chapter 10, verse 23. Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering. For he is faithful that promised. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. What is that day that it will be approaching? The day of our regathering is approaching. All right? So this is what he wants us to be. He wants us to be faithful, not wavering. No, this is not the time for you to waver in your faith. Because if you are wavering in your faith, then it means there's something wrong with your relationship with him. And you need to address that now before it's too late. And then he said we need to provoke one another to love, unto love and good works. We're supposed to be encouraging one another, help one another, love one another. This is what he wants for us. This is what is going to determine who you're serving. Because if you're provoking unto love and to good works, then it means that you're walking in the straight and narrow way. You're walking in the light. You're walking in his love. But if you're not, you're going to be full of misery. And you're going to conduct yourself in a unrighteous way, unrighteous manner. Cursing and carrying on and saying things that you're not supposed to say. Using profanity, all kind of wickedness. Verse 25. I had looked at that already. Sorry. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together. I mean, there are times when we can gather together, but it looks now that as the day is approaching, we're no longer able to have congregations that we had before. We were all once part of churches or what have you, groups, but we don't have that anymore. And that's okay. That's all right. Because when we are together, we're going to be one nice group together, all of the same mindset. No bickering, no one trying to be a Moses or Masha, trying to be a leader when you're not called to lead. Want to control and do, whatever. Because that's what happens with our people. Everybody wants to be a Masha. Everybody wants to be a deliverer. Everyone wants to be a leader. But you don't have the qualifications to lead. You lack faith, first of all. You lack knowledge. You lack understanding. You lack Ruach HaKodesh because you don't believe in Hamashiach. And yet you call yourself a leader. And people are following these ones all the way to the lake of fire. Because they may say things that cause them to feel good about themselves instead of convicted. To provoke change, to love. They feed the flesh instead of the spirit. So they're living in sin and enjoying it because their masters are living in the same way and giving them permission to live this way, eating unclean foods. And with the pork juice still dripping out of their lips, they want to praise Allah Hayam Yahweh. Unbelievable. And think that you have something stored up for you when in fact you don't. You're doomed for destruction and you're bringing down others with you. And that's why the destruction upon you is going to be greater because of your deception, of you misleading other people to take the same path that you're taking. path of self-righteousness and unrighteousness. I said to you before, if you're in a group, come out. I don't care what group it is. Unless it's one of those tiny little home groups and y'all sitting down worshiping Allah Hayam Yahweh and walking after his way, so be it. But you see these big fancy groups, the ones that dress up in their clown suits, all right? Get out of those groups. Get out of those Hebrew Israelite camps. They're all doomed for destruction. And anyone that is in there, whether knowingly or unknowingly, because you need to study the word of Allah Hayam for yourself. And if you don't study the word of Allah Hayam for yourself, you're going to be doomed for destruction. There are no excuses given or will be accepted. You can't give Allah Hayam Yahweh a good excuse that will cause him to say, okay, I changed my mind. You can come in now. No. He will say, I don't know you. I never knew you. And you know why? Because even before the day you were born, he already knew that you were going to be a rebel. He knew who would be rebellious against him even before they were born. So he said, I never knew you. He has no interest in those kinds of people. And that's why they can walk around. They can eat pig and have and fornicate and do all manner of wickedness without feeling an ounce of conviction. And then lead others to do the same thing too. And you know why? Because the devil is using them to mislead the people. But only if you are ignorant will you be misled. Only if you're ignorant. All right? So that's the ending of this exhortation. And please take it to heart. Please take it to heart. I'm telling you, things are escalating. And they're escalating because things are happening in the heavenlies. There are things happening in the spiritual realm. Because Allah Hayam Yahweh is getting ready to deliver his people. And once the door is closed, that's it. That's the scary thought for me. Once the doors are closed, I can't go pounding on the door and say, hey, let me in, let me in. He will say, well, I never knew you. I'm just using that as an example. All right? Now that we have the chance to make right with him, now is the time we need to make right with him. If you are in a job that is taking away all your time, that you cannot afford to spend time, an adequate amount of time because you're too tired or too busy or what have you, you need to get rid of that job. Get rid of it. It's not worth it. And if you need a job to pay a mortgage, you need to get rid of the house. And you got car payments, you need to get rid of the car. Take bus like everybody else. Go live in an apartment just like everybody else. You don't even need a big apartment. Just get a little studio. You're only here temporarily. You will be out of here soon. Get rid of those things. All right? Those things that are going to cause you to lose your inheritance, your heavenly inheritance, and you're going to end up in the lake of fire. And then for what? For what? Is it worthwhile to lose your soul because you want to hold on to the things of this world? Okay. Let's look at the blessing for Yasharaal taken from Madabar chapter 6 verses 24 to 26. That's the book of Numbers chapter 6 verses 24 to 26. Yabarakak Yahweh wa Yashamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahweh panayo alayak wa yahanak. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'ar Yahweh panayo alayak wa yasham la'ak shalawat. May Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. And then I will recite the command that we need to recite when we lie down, when we get up, when we go out, or when we come in, taken from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5, Debarayam chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. Shama o Yasharaal, Yahweh Allah Hayena, Yahweh Achad, wa Ahabath Ath, Yahweh Allah Hayak, Bakal Babak, Wabakal Napashat, Wabakal Ma'adak. Hear, O Yasharaal, Yahweh our Allahayam is one Yahweh, and you shall love Yahweh your Allahayam with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And with that I will say, Shalom, Shalom, all praises to the Most High, Abba Yah.